Okay, so question 8. So Hannah wants to display all the possible outcomes when rolling 2 fair 6-sided dice. So give a reason why a tree diagram is not the best method to use. So a tree diagram looks like this, where you have for the first dice, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as your options that it could be. And then it could be that you roll a 1 on the first dice, but then the second dice, you could still have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you basically, for each one of these, you would need another 6 branches coming off for the second dice. So basically, there would be, you could just say it would take too long because there's too many branches. So it's something along the lines like that. So it is doable with a tree diagram, but it would take far too long. So draw a sample space to display all the possible outcomes. So this is a slightly weird sample space question in the fact that you've got 2 dice, and normally they will tell you what they're going to do with the numbers on the dice. So they would normally say that they're going to add them or times them or something like that, but it doesn't actually tell us that. So we've basically got dice 1 like that, and then dice 2 would go down the side like that. So it's not actually saying what to do with the numbers on the dice. So we're just displaying the possible outcomes. So I would just do it in brackets like this. So it could be that we get a 1 and a 1, or it could be that we get a 1 and then a 2, and then a 1 and then a 3, 1 and a 4, 1 and a 5, 1 and a 6. So for the next row, it could be that you get a 2 and then a 1, and then a 2 and then a 2. What I'm going to do is pause the video while I just finish this, because that's otherwise very boring to watch. Okay, so that is the table then completed. So when you then go on to part 2, then it starts to talk about adding them. So I think in the mark scheme, it did allow for the fact that some students may have seen that it went on to adding, and they did add up the numbers in this sample diagram. So they, for example, did put that 1 and 1 would make 2, 1 and 2 would make 3, and I think they still gave them the marks for it. But technically, you shouldn't be using like what you've seen in a later question to help you do the bit further up. So therefore, I would say that is the most ideal answer, really. So show that the probability of the scores on the 2 dice adding to 11 is 1 over 18. So we've got to work out which of these scores are going to add up to 11. So we're looking for any 2 numbers in here that add up to 11. So you could have 5 and 6, 6 and 5, for example. Is there any other numbers that add up to 11? So no, there's not. So therefore, that would be 2 options. So we could say here, to make 11, you need 6 and 5, or 5 and 6. So therefore, that equals 2 over 36, because there's 36 in that table altogether, because it's a 6 by 6 grid, isn't it? So 36 options in total. And so then when you simplify that, you then get 1 over 18. Right, question 9 is a table of values. Now, on a calculator paper, you can use table mode on your calculator, but obviously on a non-calculator paper, you cannot do that. And the only way really now to do this is to substitute the x value into this equation here. So if x is -1, you would do -1 cubed. So that is -1 times -1 times another -1. So -1 times -1 is 1, times by another -1 is -1. And then we're going to take away 3x, so that is 3 times -1. So 3 times -1 is -3. And -1 minus -3 is like adding 3, so that makes 2 here. So it's always worth making up, if you really cannot do it, making up a value there and using that to draw your graph so that you don't lose all your marks down here as well. So the first one is -3 minus 18. So that means I'm going to go along to -3, down to -18 and put a cross. So that would be about there. The next one is -2 minus 2. So across to -2, down to -2, so about there. Then we've got -1, 2. So -1, 2 would be there. Then we've got 0, 0, nice and easy. Then we've got 1 minus 2. So 1 minus 2 would be about there. And then we've got 2, 2, which would be there. And then we've got 3, 18, which is 17, so there, 18. Okay, so then you join them up. Don't use a ruler. It should be making, if it's a cubic graph, it should be like this shape. Remember, if it's a quadratic graph with the next squared, it has like that kind of shape. So we're just going to join them up to make a curve. Try to make sure we go through the points, which is not particularly easy when you're trying to hold the phone as well, but there we go, that's not too bad. And then part C, use your graph to solve where that equation equals 10. So the fact it's saying use your graph means we do need to use the graph. You'll be surprised how many people try and do it using algebra. So if it says using your graph, you must use your graph to do it. We're looking for where it equals 10. So you just draw a horizontal line through whatever the equation equals. So in this case, it's 10. So ideally, you would use a ruler and you would draw a horizontal line through 10. And it will hopefully cross your graph. So then you just read off where that value is. So if I go down on here, so on my one, it's about 2.7. So there is usually a little bit of leeway on it. So as long as it is something around that, obviously if you've got an answer of like 0.1, that wouldn't be correct. But as long as it is probably like say 2.6 to 2.8, then I'm sure your answer would be fine. Okay, question 10 is to do with this fuel tank, isn't it? So we know that she has travelled 165 miles. The thing to watch out for on this is that petrol would start on a full tank and then it's gone backwards to this. I think it's very easy to assume it's gone from here to here, but remember it would start on a full tank and then it would lose the petrol and then it would end up empty. So we're going this way around. So we know that from here to here is 165 miles and we've got to work out how far therefore she could travel on a full tank. So altogether there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sections and that's gone down by 3 of them. So basically 165 is 3/8 of a full tank. So what we need to do is work out what the whole tank would be, which would be 8/8. So what I would do is work out if you divide that by 3, or you could think of it as like each section like this. So to work out each one, you're dividing it by 3. So if we divide that by 3, I would do it using a bus stop. So like 3's into 1 you can't do. 3's into 16 goes 5, remainder 1, and then 3's into 15, sorry, is 5. So that would be 55. So each little section here is 55. There are 8 of them altogether. So then you need to do 55 times by 8. So however you like to do that, you could do 50 times 8, 5 times 8 and add them, or put it into columns. So 8 times 5 is 40, 8 times 5 is 40, plus another 4 is 44. So it does make them 440 miles. So what assumption have you made? It's basically any answer that is saying that you're assuming that the rate of petrol consumption is staying the same. So you could put, you could just put that you're assuming the rate of petrol consumption stays the same. Things that might affect that are that if she goes at a different speed, that would affect the petrol consumption. So anything that's basically summarising that may change, and that would give a different answer. Right, we are now on question 11. So working out the length of AB. So we have got right angle triangle here, triangles even. So we know that it is SOHCAHTOA. It's not going to be sine or cosine rule if we've got right angles in them. So we're trying to work out the length of AB. Usually when you've got two triangles joined up like this, you want to work out the shared side here first. So looking at the, sorry, the battery on my phone is going. Looking at the triangle here on the right, if we label the sides with H, O and A, so that is the longest. This one is opposite and that is the adjacent here. So we know that h is 12, and first of all we're going to try and work out this side here, which is the A. So that tells us it's going to be this triangle here. So to find A, if I cover the A up, they're next to each other on the bottom, so that means I need to times them. So it's going to be cos 60 times by 12. So cos 60 is a half, times by 12 is 6. If you're not sure how I knew that cos 60 is a half, then you need to refer to the song, which I think if you look at the playlists on this YouTube channel, I have put all the songs on there that we've used. So it is the one with the 30, 45 and 60, sine, cos and tan. I'm not going to sing the song, but if I start doing this, you'll know what I mean. So the 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 2 under everything, and then you square root where you haven't got a 1, so it would be there, there, there and there. So cos 60, like you can see, is a half. So I know that that is now going to be 6 centimeters. And now this triangle here, I now know 2 lengths and I'm trying to work out a third. So that is now Pythagoras. So I'm going to square the 2 sides that I know. So it's 100 and that one is 36. I'm going to subtract them because of the fact it's a shorter side. So I would do 100 minus 36 is 64, and then you square root that to get 8. So it should be 8 centimeters for that one. Okay, last page for this video. So Carol says that 64 to the minus a half is 1 over 32. So we've got to explain basically why she is wrong and then give the correct value. So when we do 64 to the minus a half, you do 1 over it and make it positive. Now, what Carol has done, she's done half of 64, whereas remember that's 64 to the power of a half. So if it's a fractional power, you need to check the number on the bottom, and it's always to do with rooting. So if it's a 2, it means it's a square root. If it's a 3, it's a cube root, and so on. So what she should have done is square rooted the 64, whereas she has actually just found half of it instead. So I'm not going to write all that down, but you would need to say something like 64 to the minus a half equals that. Carol has found half of 64 to get 32, but she should have square rooted it. And so the actual answer should have been 1 over 8. 13a, write 5 over 12 as a recurring decimal. So that is a division. So you should be doing 5 divided by 12. So you need to put in the point zeros like that. 12s into 5 don't go, so you carry that 5 over. 12s into 50 go 4, that's 48, so remainder 2. 12s into 20 go once, that would be 12, so remainder 8. 12s into 80 go 6 times, that makes 72, so another remainder of 8, and so you're going to get another 12s into 80 goes 6 times, remainder 8, and so that 6 is going to keep recurring. So that would be 0.416 with a dot over the 6 like that. And then the final question then for this video is, so 0.76 recurring into a fraction. So that means that it goes to 0.767676. So you say x equals 0.767676. So we need to keep multiplying by 10 until it looks the same after the decimal point. So 10x is 7.6767 and so on. So at the moment after the point they are different because that's 76, this one is 67. So I'm going to multiply by 10 again. So you get 76.7676, and now that is the same as that. So you're going to minus those two. So 100x take away x is 99x. And 76 minus this is 76. So if you divide by 99, it is 76 over 99.